the thing in life that will have the biggest impact on your success or failure, not on this, your whole life, is one simple thing. And it's really the only thing that stands in the way of you and wherever you want to go.
Problems I solve them. I run through the money, the pressure be calling. Left on my blessings, I feel like I'm falling. The birdie is back. Tell me I'm garbage.
My boyfriend used to be with this girl. I see her every day at the gym and I'm starting to obsess over her and look at her Instagram all the time. How do I stop? Hey, I just caught your message and thought I'd give you a couple of words of advice. There's a couple of things really here. There's something that's making you feel somewhat insecure or inadequate or a little bit uncomfortable with the situation and really with her. And I'd really do some sort of self-reflection and try and unpack what exactly that is. Because if you've got a boyfriend and you're in a secure relationship, then I don't think you would be obsessing, as you say, over someone else, another girl. So I think that kind of speaks to an insecurity within yourself that I would really focus in on. And a good way to resolve that would be through some therapy and some counselling. And the other thing is, you know, you can do yourself some favors to stop yourself performing that behavior. And one of the very practical things that you can do is just block that person and block their account. And once they're blocked, it's going to be much harder for you to reinforce your insecurities by checking on her repeatedly and seeing what she's up to in comparison and all these toxic things. I hope that helps you. Exactly 59 seconds. You think I do this for a living?
Problems I solve them. I run through the money, the pressure be calling. Left on my blessings, I feel like I'm falling. The birdie is back. Tell me I'm garbage, I'm going through something, that's why I ain't calling. Phone and progression is all that I wanted. The phone and affection, I summon and dub it. Cause bitch, I got problems I solve them. I run through the money, the pressure be calling. Left on my blessings, I feel like I'm falling. The birdie is back. Tell me I'm garbage, I'm going through something, that's why I ain't calling. Phone and progression is all that I wanted. The phone and affection, I summon and dub it.
One stand out really amongst the rest?
Yeah, really great question. You have to ask yourself how podcasts are being discovered to understand if you're a brand, especially a small brand or an individual without a following, how you're going to be discovered in such a saturated market where your competitors, some of them have 15 million followers on Instagram, which they can use as a promotion vehicle for their podcast. So how do you launch a podcast when you don't have that huge base? And this goes back to the first point I made, which is you have to understand how podcasts are discovered. Completely different from every other medium. About 50% of discovery comes from recommendations from word of mouth, from friends telling you in the back of a taxi, oh my God, have you heard that podcast? It's X. And that sentence, whatever X is really the most important thing if you don't have an audience. So one example would be, oh my God, have you heard about that new podcast? They get people on who are currently cheating on their spouse, their husband or wife, and they explain why they're doing it and how they're doing it. That sentence in and of itself
I want to listen to it.
Exactly, right? This is a compelling sentence. You know, a friend of mine owned it, and I did him a big favour. He actually probably owes me a lot more money. Yeah, because it's a company. Do you know when the app? He met me in a co-working space and told me he had this idea for an iPad app that would allow art students to show their portfolio. And on the vlog, you see me, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. But I loved what he'd built, so gave him some advice on how to make it a bit more mass market with like social media, Instagram, etc. And to move it off iPad. And then 1 year later, I'm sat in the office in New York, and another friend comes in to see me, completely different person. And he's like talking me through what he's working on. It's this app which allows you to create stories for Instagram. And I was like, show me. And he slid his phone across the table. I looked at it and I was like, this is the future.
Yeah.
And so I said to him, can I meet you and your business partner tonight? Can I meet you tonight somewhere? And I walk into this apartment and there's that kid.
Really?
He's the founder.
That's sick.
It was the app I saw a year ago in the WeWork when we first moved to New York. He changed the idea, he made it for Instagram stories, and he was shaking.
I bet
he was fucking shaking when I walked in. I changed the idea and we have 1 million users. And then Squarespace bought them a month ago. Yeah, they're worth, I think it's probably like 30 or 50 million he got. Like as a thank you, he said, I'll give you the Instagram name Steven. So he is the nicest kid. Super nice guy.
Doesn't that make your job so worthwhile? Like all the stuff that you do, the fact that you help someone's success.
Yes. Yeah. I like seeing good people become successful. In my life, and that means that like in the horriblest, the worst of times, in the most the most chaos that my life will ever see, I'm able to continue to rise from the chaos because of my optimism. And the crazy thing is, the more you rise from chaos, the more chaos you get in your life. And this is like something that I've come to terms with. The more successful I've got, the more chaos that I encounter. And that's because the more responsibility you have and the more things that you've built, so therefore by definition the more things that can go wrong. And I've just been reading Bob Iger's new book, The CEO of Disney, and he talks about, you know, running a company like Disney. His problems are tremendous in comparison to mine, and it makes me realize that the higher I climb, I'm not actually climbing away from chaos, I'm climbing into chaos, and more responsibility and more things that can go wrong. And in fact, the saving grace of all of that is I'm equipped to go higher because I'm equipped to deal with chaos, because I'm optimistic. So I think optimism is probably the single biggest factor that's conducive with successful people. And people in here that I think are going to do well are nearly always, almost on every occasion, the optimists. I'm most skeptical, and I'd bet against, even in my own company, pessimists getting high in an organization, because they can't lead teams. Pessimists can't lead teams. You can't put people below them. You can only make a manager of someone that can manage themselves, and that's what optimists are incredibly good at. Say 3 months, we started working to try and resolve some of those things. And it became really, really clear to me that if this business was going to continue to be as special as it's always been, then it really, really needs to focus. And it needs to focus on our culture, on our mission, on our future, on our funding options and all of those things. When fundamental change happens, we know what happens to those players that aren't fundamental with their reaction. Blockbuster and Netflix, the internet came on, they had to change, they had the opportunity to buy Netflix, they didn't, they died. They need focus, and they need to become exactly that, which is a brand. They need to become an authority on the thing that they are talking to their audience about. And unless we focus, and unless we invest properly in that vision, I don't think it will ever happen. I think it will be a pipe dream. And so we need all of our talent in this whole building, in the studio, me, Katie, all of you guys and ladies, to focus on those brands and those businesses in the same way we focus on all of our clients. That's not going to happen if we just say it.
So this practical antidote is going to be a win-win-win situation, financially backed by all parties, kind of a Netflix, Spotify subscription model where universities will have their return on ethics, companies will have their return on investment, and individuals will have their return on individuality. Lofty, I know, but one can try. So here you can see a massive mind map of what it is and what it could be.
Okay.
And here you can see the gaps that we want to bridge and the barriers that we want to break.
Okay, so listen very carefully, okay?
Will do.
Sophie, what is this?
What is this?
Yeah. Question.
Yeah, I don't know.
She hasn't got a clue. Atticus, what's this idea? He has no idea. I have no idea. You have to listen to this, okay?
Yeah.
This was just loads of words. I have no idea what you're talking about. I had no idea. I got 20 seconds in and I didn't know what you were talking about. Monolithic, this, multiversal. None of it. That's not how human beings speak to each other. And if you present like that, she started checking her phone. Atticus took off his jumper. I started thinking about my day because you had lost me. It just was a bunch of words. And that's not how you're like incredibly talented at speaking. And what you're saying actually had sense to it. But it was like an assault course on the mind to try and even stay with it. I have no idea. And if someone's listened to you for 10 minutes and no one in this room, and she listened, she focused, right? She was really paying attention. She has no idea what this is. When you present stuff like this, you want to speak in the most simple terms you possibly can. Because the thing in life that will have the biggest impact on your success or failure, not on this, your whole life, is one simple thing. And it's really the only thing that stands in the way of you and wherever you want to go. Not walls, not doors, not floors, not nothing. A bunch of people. The difference between you being the president of the United States, whatever, the prime minister of the UK, or being the best salesman in the world, or the greatest philanthropist that's ever lived, like, Martin Luther King, whatever it might be, or social activist, is a bunch of people that you need to convince. That's all that stands in your way in life. Nothing else.
Makes sense.
And if you can't, communicate in a so I call it sales, right? If you can't communicate in a real powerful, effective, clear way, then, it will be an uphill battle forever. You can have all the ideas in the world. You can be all the brilliance, but if you can't get people to believe and to move and to act, none of it matters, because that's the only thing in the world, people,
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, thank you. Pleasure. Thank you. Hope you've enjoyed vlog number 2 this week. If you didn't see number 1, check it out. Maybe we can put it on the screen somewhere. If not, then Atticus just cut this out. And I'll see you again next week. And coronavirus, I need to make sure I don't kiss things.